So as we start this final review that we're doing, we're going to start with the basics. Okay, we're going to go back to equations. I just wanted to take a quick moment to explain how the exam notes thing is going to work. I will have multiple copies of this available for you if it changes as you're going along. And you're like, okay, why would it change? Because maybe as we're doing these and you're making notes on your equations, your inequalities and things, we get towards next week where we're working with the ones that are just like the final and you're like, ooh, I want an example of this. Oh crap, I don't have that anymore. You can update yours. You can make a new one, whatever it is you need to do. And I'll say this as well. Yes, I tried to make it neater for you by putting boxes in the areas. But if, you're doing something with equations and you need to kind of go off the edges here and work with some of the white space a little, you can. But I would highly recommend trying to stay organized, maybe use colors to make sure it's not just a big mishmash and you're spending all your time during the final trying to figure out where you had an example like that. If things are small and neat, don't try to cram everything in there. You're probably going to have more success. So I'll make some suggestions as we go along, but in the end, you're going to have to figure out what's best for you. So let me move this out of the way for the moment here. So here's the thing with these reviews. I wanted to put enough practice in there that if you struggle in an area, you have enough to try. While at the same time, if you're an expert in an area, you don't have to go crazy. So here's what I mean by that. So how many did I put in here? I put a lot in here. I put 28 in here. Okay. Might be a little bit of overkill. If you don't do all 28, is it going to be bad? No. But you're also going to notice something else right off the bat here. I put a lot of different types in here. So for example, let's look at number 1. That's a good place to start. As we get going, a couple of things to keep in mind. If there's an opportunity to combine like terms, that's going to simplify your problem. It's going to make it less steps for you to have to do and the less likelihood we're going to mess something up. Now, will I have that on every problem? No. But like for instance here, okay, this +1 and +4 are on the same side of the equals. So I can go ahead and say, okay, 1 + 4 is 5. And now I can start doing my opposites. There you go. So, for some of you, the big thing here might be when you start to think about the notes, maybe you need verbal steps more than you need examples. Maybe what I wrote at the top is going to be more important to you than having 4 or 5 examples in your box. For some of you, it's the exact opposite. You're like, the words mean nothing to me, but give me some examples, we'll be all right. So, I get to here, I do my opposite, I get to my solution. But as I was saying before, I've thrown all sorts of kinds of these in here when we're doing. So let's say we were doing number 4. And you're like, okay, no like terms on the same side of the equal. So number 1 need not apply. My goal is to get the variable term alone. So right now, I'm adding 6 to it. What's the opposite going to be? Subtract it. Once to each side. We just did the opposite of adding 6, subtracted 6 from each side. But now I'm dividing a by 2, because that's what a fraction is, just division. We're going to multiply. And when we multiply on the left, we're not multiplying the a by 2, we're just using that to cancel out the fraction. And I get to my solution. And if you were wondering, when we get to the final, will showing work get you partial points still? Yes, because part of the final will be short answer like we're doing here. Part of it will be multiple choice. Now in the multiple choice, no, it's just going to be right or wrong. But for the other parts, yeah, you absolutely can get some partial credit on some things. So it's just something to keep in mind. Oh, let's see. Let's keep bouncing around. Do 5. I think that's a good place to go. Let's try it out. So, okay, hang on. So 5. Now I got a couple things going on. You're like, well, wait a minute. If I want to get n alone, I'm minusing 7 and I'm dividing by 9. What order do I do things in? Whenever you've got that choice, the division is what we want to get rid of first. So how do I get rid of divide by 9? We're going to multiply by 9. And similarly to what we did on number 4, on the right, the 9's whole job is just to cancel. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with, if you're not sure on 9 times negative 3 with signs or anything else, to go to the calculator. Because now I got one step left. How do we undo the minus 7? Plus 7. And again, whether you're thinking about money, whether you use the calculator, if I owe my friend $27 and I pay them 7 back, I owe them 20. And I work that out. Now, the one other problem on this side I want to do, and like I said, I'm purposefully going to blend and mix things through. A, so it's easier for you on your part, and B, so you're not kind of out in the wind here. I'm going to come back down for a sec. When we talked about combining like terms, okay, they're on the same side of the equals. This is where we got to be careful. Because 10, you may think you can combine like terms, but we can't. Because my a's are on opposite sides of the equals, and so are my numbers. So the only way to get them together is to do an opposite. So, job 1, get all of your a's together. Do an opposite of one of these. So somebody tell me an opposite of one of these. Okay. So if I do a plus, I'm hearing echoes. Everything else stays the same. This plus 2 is still on this side with the a's. The equals comes next, and then the 7. We've just got to make sure everything else stays aligned. And then it becomes just like the other ones we've done already. It could be. Keep doing opposites. But is this one going to be a fraction? I think not. And when you're doing these, let's say you do get a fraction or a decimal. If you get a fraction or a decimal, I'll take either answer. If you're working on the final and you get to an answer, you have a decimal, and all you see are fractions, Math Enter can always help us. But again, if we're taking our time and making sure everything's going well. Nope, that one's going to be a positive one. So let's see. I'm trying to see where other weird is. I want to make sure. Oh, I see more weird. Okay. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay. This page, now it's starting to get interesting back here. Okay. So let's say we do 14. You're like, I don't even know. Whenever there's parentheses, that's where you want to start. We're going to start with distributing values through. And again, if your issue tends to be signs on things, don't be afraid to let the calculator help so your signs are good. -2 times +2. And now we're in a situation like we were on the last problem that we did. We got m's, but again, that equals is kind of like a wall. If what I'm trying to put together is on opposite sides of the wall, I got to do an opposite to get them together. So let's say you're I'm going to get all my variables on the left every time person, which is cool. We're just going to do an opposite to get there. Again, make sure the equals stays in the same place. What numbers are on each side are staying on those sides. And then we get to the point again. All my variables are together. And I'm back to doing opposites to get them alone. If you're not sure here, remember that 6 is positive. Even if we put a plus in front of it, that's not a terrible idea. Because then you might look and go, oh, the opposite of positive or +6. Lots of little things that we can do to make things easier. We're not quite done here. Now, here we got to be careful. We're not subtracting 1 from m. So what's my opposite to get the negative out of there? Nope. What's the opposite of multiplying by -1? Dividing, okay. New math term for the end of the semester. Otherwise known as dividing, yes. It's true. It's why we're not in English, we are in math. As long as we understand the idea, we're good. So I survived that. Okay. I think we've warmed up here enough to a point that we're ready for some crazy. So let's go for the wild and wacky. Whoa, 17 through 20. Hello. Okay. So when I get here, quick reminder from back when we did this before. We're looking in the denominator for the numbers that are different. I don't have to multiply all of them. I could, but that number is going to be really big. So the 3 is repeated, so is the 2. I don't have to do it twice. Over here, there's 3 2s. I don't have to do it 3 times. I only got to do it once for each number. If we multiply those 2 numbers together, 3 times 2 is 6. Here's the thing. When we distribute that, holy cow, look at all the terms. That 6 is going 2. Okay. Let the calculator do your heavy lifting. I'm doing 6 times in parentheses for my fraction in parentheses. If I do that,
that's 6.
6 times 1 is definitely 6. I agree. Don't lose the equals. When I get to my next portion, that's -7/3. but it still gives me a whole number. 6 times positive 1/2. You cannot put the variables in here, just the numbers. But you've got to remember then to keep the variable with.
Is it 3B?
It is 3b. And then my last one, it's -3 divided by 2. Yeah, we don't have a fraction button in here. We just use the divide button. Now that helped a little. I'm not saying that solved all the problems we have, but it did get rid of all the fractions. Now I've got to jump back in, look on each side of the equals, and be like, okay, that has b, that doesn't. I don't have any like terms. So that side's ready. Okay, hang on. This side, though, same side. We're not doing opposites here. They're on the same side. So I'm just going to do 3 minus 9. So over here I've got -14 minus 6b. The other side stayed the same. Hardy, I don't want to write this much. I'm telling you, it's worth it to keep things in steps and do the extra steps. I'm not answering that question yet. So, next job. All my like terms are together. Everything now is on opposite sides. So, let's get all the b's together. Let's get them on the left side. Why not? I'm going to do my opposite of a negative or a minus 6b. If you write big, I apologize. We're both going to get stuck here and run out of room, but we're going to make it work. We'll have to use a little room over here in a minute. So all my b's are together now. They're all on one side. This is good. We've made progress. How's that move? Subtract. Some of you are starting to wonder, Hardy, are we ever going to get a fractional or a decimal answer at some point? It's going to happen. Oh, look out. This is why I stress the showing of work, because let's say you do all this work and everything is great, and then all of a sudden you're like, you think negative minus negative is positive, and you put positive 20 and you put b equals 1, and that's all you put. All this work back here I can't give you credit for, but if all you do is screw up a sign, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-point question, you're only losing maybe a half or 1. So again, all I'm going to do on 18, because I don't want to keep you on forever, I want to be able to help people individually too. Take those numbers that are different, and your 12 would be what you're going to divide by through this time. Because that's what 2 times 6 is. Because when I'm looking at the denominators, I'm looking for each number that's unique, that's different, and I'm going to multiply them together. Like, I don't have to do 2 and 2 and 2 again and 6 to get what I need. Would it work if I did? Yes. I could do 2 times 2 times 6 times 2 and use that big old number out here. But that just makes everything bigger. So if all we do for each of these is multiply the numbers together that aren't repeating, yeah, if they repeat, I don't need them every time. Right. And so I can work through, and I can try some of that and see how it's working. There's one more type I want to deal with you. Maybe give a little bit of guidance on the note sheet, and then I'm going to let you kind of do your thing here for a bit. When we get to the back with proportions. Okay. 2 reminders on proportions. If it's just, ooh, I see a fraction one, I'm going to do that one. If I see Just two fractions with an equals in the middle. We are cross multiplying. Okay, not straight across, but like cross, like make an X. And here's one of our situations when we divide. Oops, 40, Hardy. No, not times, Hardy. Divide. If you get a decimal here, I'm fine with you leaving it that way. If you did math enter, and you got a fraction, that's also okay. Either of those, I'm good with. The only exception to that will be if you're doing your cross multiplying and there's something with plus or minus. What I'm doing, if I were you, would go through and do it to every problem on here that has one of these. If it has plus or minus, put parentheses. Okay, why do I need to do that? Because when I do my cross multiplying, I'm going to help you avoid forgetting distributing to part of that. And here's what I mean. When you see the parentheses there, I'm hoping that means you remember, hey, I got to multiply that number on the outside times each part on the inside, not just the first variable, which I probably would do if I didn't put parentheses. If I can get around that one pitfall, I'm probably going to be good. Because now, I want to get out alone. I undo the minus 40. And I'm going to finish it off. So if you see some problems as you're working through here that you're like, ooh, if I saw that on a test, I'm not sure I'd remember, the parentheses, or I'd remember how to do the fractions. Those are the things I'm encouraging you to put in here, whether it's copying the problem, whether it's putting a note there with your opposites or something like that. I might even suggest, again, using colors. Maybe you're like, I just want to section mine off, and so I'm going to do like, I want to leave myself room, and I'm going to make 6 problems that I'm going to put in here. And then I'm going to put like my opposites up here on top of the section to remind me. So maybe the problems are in here and my little notes are along the edges. But we're going to build this as we go. Once we get a few sections in, I'm going to show you what I would probably do if I was doing it, and then you can roll with it, roll with your own. But I want you to try these on your own at the start to figure out which of the problems from the review would help you to have some examples when we get going on the final.